Hey, Christian, are you ready?
So welcome to the leg
I'm
three.
reading, yeah.
Leg three of day three. Hashtag we with our musical guest Christian Avicias Youssef. I'm sorry, I stepped over you, didn't I?
No, it's cool. I mean, welcome to what is this, leg three? It is leg three. Yeah. And on day three, and hashtag we's going to be an amazing show. And I'd like to welcome first up our great friend from Ecuador. And let me get his bio up. Christian Avicias Sigüenza is from Ecuador. Is a writer, researcher, poet, actor, musician, activist. They're racing out on the road in front of me. So sorry. Ah, it's amazing. Activist. Christian has written over 100 songs, recorded Creación de los Amantes, El Dragón y otras aves, and the Los Cuatro Peores with Argentinian poet and songwriter Pedro Nazar. And his theatrical group is called Teatro Miento. So I've got links. I'll put some links up in the chat and on the webpage very soon. And we're gonna spotlight Christian, and he's already up. It's all you.
Yeah.
Gracias.
How are you, friends, dear Joseph? Nice to see you again. I am here a little lost in time because I'm in Ecuador and we have other time. So I was waiting this reunion 2 hours ago. But it's okay. Hi, everybody. Okay, I'm here with my poetry. I have to read in Spanish because I don't have that poetry in English.
You're not gonna sing. You can sing songs or sing us. You have a song ready?
Okay. I broke my finger.
Oh. Okay.
Broke, but I can try.
Do as you wish. Okay, it's just do as you wish. You're free.
But in English, you can understand my Spanish poetry.
We've got
you
people.
Think?
We got people who understand those the both idiomas.
I'm going to read. Okay, I'm going to read this. This is a book called La Noosfera. That is a term created by a French philosopher that calls Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, and is is the place where is the intelligence of the human being. Everybody lives in the at the Noosfera. And I wrote a poem for every human being, for every man or woman, because this book has 2,000 poems, epigrammatic poems of one line for every profession, every work of the people. So this is easy to read in Spanish and understand in other languages. Maybe we can translate it. So, for example, I can read one of them that is called The Poet. This poem has a line is organized by alphabetic order, this book. Organized in alphabetic order. So we have the poeta in Spanish, and the poem, one line says in Spanish, no existe diferencia entre un orgasmo y un poema. En los dos soy cuerpo para ti. I repeat it in Spanish. Poeta. No existe diferencia entre un orgasmo y un poema. En los dos soy cuerpo para ti. In English, it's something like that. Poet, there is not difference between an orgasm and a poem. In the two of them, I am a body for you. Something like that. Sorry, my English. So I can ask you if you want to read, I read some poem of one profession. Político. Ya casi no recuerdo al niño que fui cuando decía que jamás sería el hombre que ahora soy. Político. Ya casi no recuerdo al niño que fui cuando decía que jamás sería como el hombre que ahora soy. I almost don't remember the kid I was when I said that I never will be this man that I am now. I can't. Maybe I can. This is the political. So we have a lot of professions like pornógrafo, pornman. No se hace el amor al desnudarse, se hace el amor al desnudar. O, por ejemplo, el post-millennial. No estoy solo. Mi cerebro puede confundir el porno con amor. Post-millennial. No estoy solo. Mi cerebro puede confundir el porno con amor. Por ejemplo, el post-millennial. Posibles solo en red. Imposibles en la realidad. And every kind of work in the human being, like, I don't know, presidente. Cada vez estoy más solo. Me eligieron los que se van a arrepentir. Is understandable?
Sure. For those who speak Spanish, but we have people who understand both languages. You're doing great, man. It's cool.
You can translate this, maybe? Or somebody can translate it?
Which one?
Like president.
Each time I'm more alone or lonely. So, arrepentir. I will choose those who will repent. I
Yeah,
think it's repent, yeah?
yeah, regret, yeah.
Ah, yeah, regret.
Presidiario. El presidiario is like somebody that is in jail. El infierno no es estar solo, es estar acompañado de otros solos.
Hell is not to be alone, but it's to be accompanied by other lonely people.
Yeah. El príncipe. Una corona sirve para fabricar escrúpulos y callar a los demás.
A crown. Príncipe. What's a príncipe?
Is the son of the king.
Oh, the prince, of course. Okay, so a crown serves is for create is scrupulous and to make fall the others.
Yeah. Proctólogo.
Oh no.
Okay.
So
Proctólogo has a poem. El verdadero dolor es sentirse un inexperto.
and that's my problem right now.
Okay, proctologist, the real pain is feeling someone who's not expert.
Is to feel like someone who's not expert.
Yeah. El profesor. Los conocimientos pueden enseñarse, pero la sabiduría viene del alma.
Oh, that's a sweet one. Do you want to say that one? Jan, I think you joined in on the last one.
So I'm not sure about conocimientos, but things that you learn. Knowledge can teach you, but the real wisdom comes from the soul.
Yeah, it can be learned. Knowledge can be learned.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Psicoanalista.
Okay, psychoanalyst.
Si quieres que viva poco, hazlo feliz. Si quieres que viva feliz, dale poco.
If you want to live a little, make yourself happy. If you want to live happy, give very little.
Yeah. Publicista. Si algo sabes del infierno, el eslogan eres tú.
If you want to know something about hell, the slogan is you.
Químico. Para un átomo, el universo es una forma primitiva de existir.
So, chemist, for an atom, the universe is a primitive form of existence. The universe is a primitive form of existence. Yeah.
Rabino. Dios no está en las palabras, está entre las palabras.
Actually, that's really wise. To the rabbi, God is not in words, but is in between words.
Rastafari.
Okay.
Other religion. Quien no vive para una belleza, vive por error.
The Rastafari. A person who does not live for beauty lives in error.
Yeah. Reformista. Iglesia es vivir para los hombres.
Reformista, is that to the reformer, to the reformist?
Yeah.
To the
Yeah.
A Christian reformist. The church is to house humans, is to house the people. That's what the house of God is for, is to house the humans.
Is to live for men.
Well.
To live for men. Thanks. I don't know. Religioso o relojero.
Okay.
El tiempo no es obra de los dioses, es obra de lo que compite con los dioses.
To the watchmaker. Go ahead, Jan. I'm sorry.
No, you're doing great. Time is not the work of gods. It's the work of those who compete with gods.
Isn't
or
that
the gods.
Yeah. Thanks.
I love the aphorisms.
Republicano. I don't know.
En Ecuador.
En Ecuador.
Okay.
Sí. Solo quiero hacer valer el privilegio de tener un ingreso más alto que todos los demás.
Go ahead, Jan. I mean, if you wanted to go.
I'm not sure, but I think it's like I only want to make valuable the privilege of having an ingress and a way in that's higher than everybody else.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
can. I got.
that's the republicano.
I can find the demócrata.
Satánico.
Yes, demócrata.
Mm-hmm.
Lo llaman democracia, pero es domesticación.
Well, the Democrat, they call it democracy, but it's actually domestication, as in like farm animals.
Satánico, you say.
I like satánico.
¿Dónde está satánico?
I'm going to find it. It's here. Satánico. Cuando siento que tu desnudez es cosa santa, te desnudo más.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
When
well,
I feel that your nakedness is a holy thing, I undress you more. I make you more naked.
you become more naked.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more like that. Or no, I don't know. There's a little understanding in between those words.
Yeah.
It makes you more naked.
Mm-hmm.
When I understand, when I feel that your nudity is a sacred thing,
Mm-hmm.
then you are more naked to me.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous, and it's very few lines, and it's great work.
Thanks.
Paul.
You want other more? Somebody?
I'm
Maybe
asking time. Paul, how are we doing on time, sir? Unmute thyself and spaketh forth, Zarathustra.
It's 1:54.
So, can we go, or do we? What do you want to do?
We can. I think we can. I'm ready to. We could go if Christian is done. It's good to go. We appreciate the presentation. No song. We're not going to get a song because the finger, right?
Well, we're missing
Yeah,
you. We're missing your fingers. We're missing your
we got
songs and stuff. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Christian. We really appreciate you checking in. And thank you for joining us from the bottom hemisphere. We appreciate.
And now
that.
we've met you, and people know you and know about your work, and that's really the goal, man. And they can find your songs.
That shit was beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for everybody. And
that feels like Kabbalah. That feels like real Kabbalah right there.
It's
I'm going to
wonderful
be
work.
okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Somebody.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's broken, so I can't play guitar.
It's still Beast Crawl. It was 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Today's the third day.
Yeah. Was that Natasha? Are you unmuted there? You got some outside conversation going? I heard that. You know, when you hear an Australian accent, it might be Natasha. All right. So thank you, Christian. Thank you for that presentation of those sort of proverbs, all of those kind of their own sort of beatitudes. Those were very, very nice. And we now are ready for the reading known as #We that has been curated by Richard Loranger, who you may have seen feature for Collapse Press yesterday, who is himself who has curated #We since before the pandemic was a thing that he got going. And when we decided to bring the beast back, we felt like #We was different and unique and revolutionary enough that we needed to have him be a part of that family. And there's been nothing to dissuade me from that opinion. Also, I would like to point out that Richard has a book coming out shortly called Unit of Agency from Collapse Press, and it's going to be a really, really good book. So I'll just drop that little plug for my man. And I will now hand the microphone over to, Richard, I apologize. I should make you a co-host, just out of, although that's probably not going to help you at any point here. But at the same point, you should have power in your hands when this is the reading that you are curating, and I'll let you talk about your process for putting this together and doing this a little bit more on your own before you turn us over to your beautiful readers. And you're on mute, Richard.
as I was saying, putting power in my hands is your first mistake. Let's hope it's your last. No, thank you. Listen, hi, everybody, and welcome to #We, the Beast Crawl 2021 edition. For those who aren't familiar, #We is a bi-monthly talk and performance series that ran from 2018 to early 2020. Then preferring an in-person experience, we closed the doors due to the pandemic. I'm hoping to start it up again in 2022, or as soon as it's safe for us to share together in a room. So #We explores perspectives from across the queer spectrum, and with an emphasis on marginalization from without and also from within the queer community, which a lot of us experience. We don't require that as an exclusive theme, but each installment, just to tell you about the series, because it was a little unusual, the format, each installment featured 2 presenters from various segments of the queer spectrum, each of whom gives a prepared talk on their perspective on or experience of queerness, followed by reading and performance of their creative work. It's a long form event, and which is a little what makes it unusual. And actually, it's kind of made it. I thought it was either going to make or break it, but it really made it. Each presenter gets up to half an hour. And to go into depth about their lives and their writing. And then we have a Q&A with them and chat time for everybody to just talk about whatever's on our minds. So today, we're going to hear readings from 5 folks who participated in the series. Sorry if I'm bouncing, I just realized. I've asked them to read whatever they damn well please. And so no themes or restrictions on content today. So please welcome Shilpa Kamat, Hilary Brown, Julia Serrano, Jan Steckel, and Juba Kalamka, who will be reading in that order. So cool. Let's just dive right in. First up, we have. Oh, did I say something funny? Who's laughing? Okay, so first up we have Shilpa Kamat. Shilpa, I'm being paranoid that I'm mispronouncing your last name today because I haven't said it aloud for a while. Shilpa Kamat is a writer, educator, and healing arts practitioner with an MFA in creative writing from Mills College. She was a finalist for the 2018 Gloria Ansaldúa Poetry Prize. Woo! And her chapbook, Saraswati Takes Back the Alphabet, which, by the way, is gorgeous. I want to let you know, was published by Newfound in 2019. She's taught writing at the Loft Literary Center, K-12 schools and colleges, shelters and community centers, and in forests, which I love. She's currently offering online classes. Shilpa is the only person reading today who actually never got a chance to present. She was scheduled to do a talk called Walking Between Worlds that was going to happen after everything shut down. So we're hoping to have her back when everything is safe and safe to unmask in public. So please welcome Shilpa Kamat. Unmute yourself, please, Shilpa, and charge right in.
Thank you, Richard. I've really been enjoying experiencing Beast Crawl this weekend. And I know that there are quite a few speakers today, so I'll just launch right in. I'm not sure how to, am I supposed to pin myself? Because I don't know how to do that.
Hold on just a moment. I thought I had it and it got away from me and I don't know why. Hold on.
Okay.
All right, that should hold it, hopefully.
Okay. Thank you. Decompose the breath of the salutary conquerors, that infallible riddle that holds all outsiders in the periphery, that out of reach sensation, perpetual cloak of tremble and question, decompose your own stolid thumbs. Let them grow back fresh the way anything can if it adapts. Grow gills and lidless eyes and stare and stare and stare at your own deep longing, at the landfill of humanity's mistakes, the kind that rattle in trees, the kind that float for thousands of years, unable to change. So that was a poem from a body of work called An Out of Control Silence. I always have a lot moving through me around our connection to ecology and our impact. And I also think of how we need to pull apart and break down what's not working so that we can regenerate, which is easier said than done in these times. I'm going to share another piece of work from that same body of work, but that's also in my chapbook. There is a mind, and it blows and blows and blows up a balloon, and then realizes it could kill sea creatures, so responsibly holds onto its helium urgency with both hands until it wilts, sleeps with it under its pillow, shriveled, wrinkled, red. When I die, the mind instructs, put the balloon in my mouth and incinerate me properly. So I initially wrote that poem when I was kind of feeling through a lot of the cultural and linguistic dissonance that I experienced when I was young, going between home and school, going from country to country. But I also feel like there's a layer when I consider the queer diaspora, or at least my experience, that there's another layer there. And I wrote down some thoughts about this particular poem, so I'm going to go ahead and read them so I don't ramble. This is what the mind does when it cannot express freely because it lacks fluency in a language, or because there's a perceived lack of safety, externally or internally, to speak the thoughts that want to be expressed. Wherever there's a lack of freedom, the words can be accessed, are not made of the organic and life-affirming substance that we hope, but are contained within this artificial structure, this metaphoric balloon that is then held back to protect the ecosystem, our ecosystem. But what happens to our content if it slowly leaks away? And what are we blowing up our ideas for? To be decorative, to be tossed back and forth in celebration or in competition, to burst suddenly and unexpectedly? Does the balloon represent our social climate, or does it represent language itself? There are many ways in which language fails us. The dominant languages on this continent, despite their regional flavors and their dialectic diversity, are European in origin. We're forced to communicate primarily in the tongues of colonizers, while globally, a language dies every 2 weeks. Our ancestral tongues may or may not be understood, and even if they are, they have their own limits. To speak of migration or queerness or intersectionality, I must speak in English, which means that the words themselves belong to a framework that may differ from the fullness of my experience. That containment of language can be liberating, and simultaneously, containment can stifle and can turn upon itself. And I'll pause at that last thought, because my preferred containers for language and my thoughts are poems. And I had a request for some of my fire season poetry, because I've been writing through the many fire seasons that we've had. And I wrote this one last year. After lightning strikes over 12,000 times and starts over 560 fires, and you evacuate the state with your family to save your lungs. Speak of displacement. Speak of where you go when the smoke thickens and enters even through double-paned windows, even through masks. Speak of the way you try to frame leaving, how you handle the perpetual tremors of uncertainty through arms, back, chest, belly. Speak of how your forms slowly unravel, of how everyone is unraveling, how making space for work while the children are fighting grows harder and harder, how it feels when the family sleeps in a car, how packing out in the mornings every day never grows easier, how you switch between smoke masks and pandemic masks, and how not everyone around you wears masks. Speak of how even when facing red cedars or Douglas firs or Japanese maples or wisps of cirrus clouds over lilting estuaries as tides rise, your page stays blank, even when you have a pen poised, not knowing anymore what meaning to make, or when it will be over, or whether it will be over in a way that will let you be still again. And I'll end with something a little lighter because it seems like most of the stuff I've chosen is a little more intense. I've chosen, well, I wrote this next poem to explore what happens when identity is something that's seen as wrapping around the self rather than something coming from the inside. So anything from the clothes that we wear to perceptions of who we are, and which may or may not be the reality. And then the poem just kind of took on a life of its own. Wash cold and delicate. My identity is a shawl with colored squares, not of dazzle, but of bright, sometimes stuffed as an afterthought into the back of my backpack or the recesses of my car, sometimes wrapped tightly over skin, its fabric surprisingly thin, making me surprisingly warm despite. I want to say it's homegrown, homespun, sewn with my own expert hands, dyed with natural colors, but in truth, it was made by others using questionable dyes and sold for 150 rupees in northern India, although my family is from the Southwest, and I was only traveling up there, motion sick on the Ghats. My identity is tea-stained, car-heated, bleached by the sun, but still showing up in purples, pinks, sea greens, gold, asters, and silver curlicues, can be teased apart or muddied into a bland brown mess, confusing purpose, defying agenda. There are people who are angry because my identity does not limit its color palette, because its patterns are not sequential, because it cannot be compressed to underline an existing soundbite. Because I am generous. If someone is very cold, I will let them borrow my identity to wrap as an extra layer around their necks, reminding them to give it back when they are done. One day, my identity will be passed on, will be in a landfill, will be put on display, will be overwashed and overworn and fray and rip, will be solicited to give a keynote address at an outdoor gathering, which it will do without me, silently flapping its colors in the wind. Thank you.
That was beautiful. If we can unmute and clap applaud for Shilpa for a moment.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Lovely.
Thank you, Shilpa.
So much. Thank you, Shilpa. If you do have a link to your any, to where people get your books or any blogs you write, please put them up. Same with everybody else. And thank you for being with us. So next up, we have Hilary Brown. Yay! Who is a queer disability activist living in Chicago, and we miss you so. I'm just saying. Their collection, When She Woke, She Was an Open Field. What a title, and what a collection. Actually, it's a beautiful book, available from Headmistress Press. Their poem Philomena in Idaho was the winner of the Bloom's 2021 Outliers Award. Their work can be found or is forthcoming in Queerly, Apt, the Ocotillo Review, A Disabled Woman's Reader, and the South Carolina Review. Getting published. That's awesome. Hilary presented at our 6th event for #We with a talk titled, I'm a Mover and a Shaker, Thoughts from an Electoqueer. And with that, please welcome Hilary Brown. Hi, Hilary.
Hi, I have a little correction. My poem was called Philomela in Idaho. Actually, I'm gonna do a paste of where you can get my collection.
Yeah, I did mispronounce that. Sorry.
And I'm gonna say I love Shilpa with all my heart because she is big and brave and awesome and the most generous person in the world. As you may have noticed from her poems, you can just tell. Anyway, and I am gonna read that poem, Philomela in Idaho. Can you all hear me? Is that okay? Awesome. Cool. I'm gonna read now. Okay. Philomela in Idaho. Every girl here is a nightingale, unbelieved and weaving songs she cannot sing. We receive nothing in the end, an empty inheritance, a handful of threats. An empty field after harvest, weeds burning in the ditch, air filled with the scent and sting of smoke, almost comfort, almost enough. If we are lucky, we leave. We are transformed and we find our flight away. The wilderness was desert, was farmland, pockmarked with grain elevators, rusted metal, rusted out cars, abandoned sheds, barns, the old school, the old garage, the line of buildings piled high with old furniture, brick church, bonfires, backwoods, back alleys, backyards, garages, home. And silence left no obvious scar. There was never any proof to hold up. A withered stump crying offense to the gods, crying offense to the prophets and protectors and parents. No, there was just crying in all its fruitlessness. Silence is its own bleak thing. There is no metaphor for this. Knuckles scraped on rock or brick. Leave it as it is. You cannot bandage it. There is no healing without the open wound in open air, the damage there where everyone can see. Good morning, windswept dawnlight, farmland growing more barren, decay. Generations who have lived here, children who will not stay. I would like to write a love song to memory. I have forgotten the memory for which I would sing. It is all lost and gone. It is a hollow thing. The roots no longer run that deep. This is a beautiful land. We have marked it and marred it, carved our initials into it, determined we must not be forgotten. It is still a beautiful land. Bury me in topsoil. Make me easy carrion. Give me away only then. Don't allow me to be prey. Somewhere the sun is rising in reverse. I cannot recognize it without the backdrop of home, the slope of the mountains far to the east and far to the west, the slope of my neighbor's roof outside my window. In memory, my mother walks to the middle of the road, shades her eyes and watches the sunset, one hand on her hip. I would like to write a love song to the lonely land where I grew, to imagine I flew over like a lonely bird, like an ordinary bird, to imagine I never got lost in these specifics. The air has stilled and is filled with waiting. Each bird has returned to her nest, each rabbit to his burrow. We are instinctual, filled with hiding. We know the sound of thunder before it rumbles in our ears, the flash of lightning before it fills our vision. Have you seen panic in the eyes of a horse? The rolling reveal of white, the tremble and tense of muscle? The danger is there at the base and the height of fear. We are not taught that fear, neither the paired sorrow, but we have learned. Every mile on this highway is an ode to the evening news, and it has been bad news for months. We drive on. Thank you. That's the only poem I prepared because it's really long.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. If you have another thing on the top of your head, you're welcome to. You have a couple more minutes, but you know, that was so gorgeous. So up to you.
I can find one really fast.
You're welcome to find one fast.
Just a second. I sent a poem to my mom. Let me look in my sent on my Gmail. To Virginia. Oh, shoot. I used my other account. Ein Moment. It will be like 2 minutes. Is that, I mean, do you want me not to do that? Is this gonna bother you?
What is that? I'm sorry.
I mean, is it gonna bother you if I look one up? Do you want me?
If it's quick, it's fine.
Yeah, it'll be like 30 seconds.
I think we can live through 30 seconds. I'm going to enjoy them, and I'm going to mute.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you, Richard, for bringing us all here during our 30 seconds.
Yeah, here is the poem that I wrote most recently, and it's just like my frustrations with like a lot of my classmates have bought into QAnon and stuff like that, and I got really frustrated and wrote a poem about it. So it's called I'm Getting Really Tired of Hearing Every Day. I'm getting really tired of hearing every day how people like you think people like me should die so you can cut your hair or watch a game. It's freedom, not selfishness, you claim, but I have seen the dead, the coffins, and those without coffins too. I have seen last words recorded. I have seen regret. I have seen friends call the deaths of other friends' families conspiracy. I have been too far away to wipe away the tears of those I love. I have seen my loved ones die and die and die. It's been a year of dying, but you claim it's not enough dying for you to believe. You claim there must be dying in the streets. There is. You move your goalposts once again. You say you love me. Say you are my friend. I think that's my most recent poem.
Thank you. Hilary Brown, everyone. Feel free to unmute for a moment and give some cheers.
Oh, I so felt that second poem. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hilary.
That was a 30 seconds well worth it.
Yeah.
Thank you,
How do
Hilary.
stand it?
Thank you.
Stay well in Chicago, and please come visit when you can.
Oh, you know, I'll save my pennies.
Okay, yeah, me too.
When I win the lottery, I'll buy a house there.
Okay, we'll all be living there. Okay, so we should move on. Thank you. And next up, I'm excited to introduce Julia Serrano. Julia is an Oakland, California-based writer, performer, and activist. She's the author of 3 nonfiction books: Whipping Girl, a transsexual woman on sexism and the scapegoating of femininity; Excluded, making feminist and queer movements more inclusive; and Outspoken, a decade of transgender activism and trans feminism. Julia's first foray into fiction, entitled 99 Erics, a cat cataclysm faux novel, won the Publishing Triangle's 2021 Edmund White Award for debut fiction and was an Independent Publisher Book Awards Awards 2021 silver medalist in LGBT plus fiction. I also want to say Julia's essays are really smart and incisive, but the novel is remarkably also funny. It's very humorous and it's a great read. And so, you know, you get to, if you buy all her stuff, you get to turn on all parts of your brain. That book is a humorous account of a bisexual female absurdist short fiction writer who dates 99 different people named Eric for literature's sake. Now you want to pick it up. And you can post that link again, Julia, when you're done or something. It is more surreal than slutty. Not that there is anything wrong with slutty. More info at juliaserrano.com. Julia, by the way, presented at the very first #We back in 2018 with a talk titled Queer Posers, or perhaps they aren't actually posers, which really set the tone and a great energy for the series. And I want to welcome you. Thanks for being here, Julia.
Thank you, Richard, and thanks.
Oh, you're muted somehow.
Sorry, thank you, Richard, and Beast Crawl and everybody here. I'm happy to be a part of it. If you're wondering why there's this weird background, it's because this is the cover of the book I'm going to read from, and I'm in a closet. I'm literally in the closet right now, so I have like a little green screen. So sorry about the background, but yeah, so I'm going to read. I read a couple things at the first SWE, and one of them was a chapter from 99 Erics called Posers. I'm going to read two shorter excerpts from it. And it's about Kat is bisexual, and so she's often talking about her experiences as a queer person in the world, but also as a bisexual person within a greater queer community that sometimes is fine and sometimes is not so fine. So this is the beginning of that chapter. These days, it's really difficult to talk about being queer because there's this popular presumption that society is now totally a-okay with same-sex relationships, which ignores the fact that this is far from the truth. Plus, most of us grew up during a time when it most certainly was not okay to be queer. And many people seem to have drunk the "we're just like you except for our sexual orientation" Kool-Aid. So they don't even consider the possibility that the experience of being queer might be considerably different from what straight people experience. So Kat, what is it like being queer? Some of you may now be asking. Well, I would say that it's kind of like bicycling to Alameda. But not just any old bike trip to Alameda. You're going to the west side of Alameda for some inexplicable reason. And people will argue over whether you felt the need to go to West Alameda because it's in your genes, or poor parent-child dynamics, or because fetal hormones hardwired your brain that way. But you couldn't care less about these debates. All you know is that you really need to get to West Alameda, and it doesn't matter why. Plus, to you, there's a clear double standard at work here, because nobody would ever question you if you told them that you were bicycling to downtown Alameda instead. Now, if you were going to downtown Alameda, as everybody expects of you, you could simply bike over either the Park Street or Fruitvale bridges, totally safe, and you'd arrive at your destination. Easy squeezy. But for West Alameda, the most direct route for you is the Posey Tube, which was built back in 1927, long before urban planners worried their pretty little heads over bike lanes. And all they left you is a one-person wide pathway perched on one side of the tunnel, just above the racing cars below, with only a guardrail separating you from your impending death. The sign says that you should walk your bike, but if you do that, you'll be in the tube all day. So instead, you precariously pedal your way across the ocean estuary, albeit underneath all the water. And it's outrageously loud in the tube due to the cavernous echoing of car and bus engines. And your eyes are peeled on the tight path that you are navigating, as one small slip up could potentially cast you over the guardrail. So your senses are overloaded, and you are on the verge of freaking out or screaming or crying or dying, or possibly some combination thereof. But you keep on going, not because you are brave or courageous, which I suppose are pretty much the same thing, but because there isn't no other way to get to West Alameda, and that's where you really need to go. But then, lo and behold, you see someone approaching from the other direction. You have to get off your bike, and they need to do the same because the path is so narrow. And you'd think this would be a huge inconvenience, having lost all the momentum you had built up, but strangely it's not. And as you squeeze past one another, the two of you make eye contact and smile. Not the fake sorts of smiles that accompany the exchange of everyday pleasantries, but rather the genuine, knowing smiles of people who share the same intense and potentially traumatic experience. And in that brief moment, the two of you make a profound human connection, unlike anything you've ever felt before. Because only a moment ago, you were both completely alone in a dark tunnel, freaking out and afraid of dying. But now you realize that you're not alone after all. And it's beautiful. But it's also a little sad that you had experienced all that fear and loneliness in the first place. So that's what being queer is like, at least in my estimation. Now, queer communities are an entirely different thing. That would be like if you decided to round up all of the people who've ever bicycled through the Posey Tube and put them all in the same room together. At first, you would all bond over your shared experiences traversing and surviving the tunnel. There would be expressions of Posey Tube pride abound, and it would no doubt be a wonderful affair. But fairly shortly after that, you would all start to realize that you have nothing in common with each other aside from this one thing. After all, you each come from different backgrounds and have different personal and political views, not to mention different bicycles. And factions would no doubt develop. For instance, between people who bicycled through the tube in differing directions. Because let's face it, while the mainstream majority doesn't understand why anyone in their right mind would ride their bike through the Posey Tube, it's easier for them to accept people who desire to go to downtown Oakland rather than those who desire to go to West Alameda. Because why would you go to West Alameda? And the people who cross the tube every day on their way to work would start to look down on the people who have only done it sporadically for occasional visits. Or the people used to do it all the time, but no longer do because they have since switched jobs or moved elsewhere. And of course, the former group would probably call these latter groups something demeaning yet pithy, like posers, in order to invalidate their experiences, even though they did have those experiences, those special moments of fear and recognition and intimacy amidst that precarious, cacophonous tunnel. Okay, so that's the first bit. We're going to fast forward. Then she starts talking about when she first moved out to San Francisco to come out as queer. And so I'm going to read a little excerpt from that. Wait, there we go. Gabriella is her friend from college. So she's moved in with Gabriella as she came out here. And then all of Gabriella's friends seemed so cool, and they were so patient and unconditionally accepting of me, at least at first. In retrospect, it was probably because they viewed me as a baby dyke, which is what they call someone who's recently come out into the queer community. I probably reminded them of their younger baby dyke selves during that magical and foundational period of their own lives. So they took me under their wings, showed me the ropes, and other mixed metaphors. If I said or did anything they perceived to be incorrect or naive, they would let it slide on account of the fact that I was still in the throes of throwing off the chains of heteronormativity. And they weren't judgmental about the several-year-long relationship I had with a man. They assumed that it was simply something I had to do in order to survive in the straight world. But after numerous months of enculturation, your baby dyke status eventually fades, and you become a fully mature dyke in their eyes. And if at this point, rather than listening to the usual lesbian bands, who are fine, but there's only so much folk music and punk rock you can take, and serious lesbians explore more genres of music. If you instead play classic 70s prog rock records, like Close to the Edge or The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, all of your dyke roommates are going to look at you weird, like disdainfully weird. Because the music you're playing is not sapphic in any way at all, and you really should know better by now. And if you choose not to get an androgynous or asymmetrical haircut because of your personal preference for length and symmetry, or not to get a wrist star or labrus tattoo because of your trypanophobia, then some people will question your queerness, even though tattoos and haircuts have nothing to do with your sexual orientation. I mean, these are merely signifiers. And as someone who as a recently dropped out linguist, you are highly aware of the relationship between the signifier and the signified. It's completely arbitrary, or at least that's what Sartre said. So why risk getting a rainbow tattoo when 20 or 30 years from now, the signifier rainbow might mean shopping cart or macadamia nut, or the refraction of light via airborne water droplets. You never know. Your new friends will cut you some slack when it comes to your haircut, taste in music, and so forth, until you meet that guy, the sweet and soft-spoken one who works at the bookstore nearby. So that's where I'll end right now. Thanks for your time and looking forward to hearing everyone else.
Oh my God, Julia, thank you so much.
Thanks.
I love reading that, but I so love listening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One of the great extended metaphors of all time, by the way. the posy tube queer analogy. Anyway, so everyone, if you unmute for a second, I like making a little noise. And
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
it also gives us a moment to shift mentally, if we can. So put your link up again if you want, Julia. And,
Okay, I'll do
I'm
that.
gonna move on to Jan Steckel. Hi, Jan.
Hey, Richard.
So Jan Steckel's book, Like Flesh Covers Bone, won the 2019 Rainbow Award for LGBT poetry and Best Bisexual Book. Her poetry book, The Horizontal Poet, won a 2012 Lambda Literary Award for bisexual nonfiction. Her fiction chapbook, Mixing Tracks, and poetry chapbook, The Underwater Hospital, also won awards. You are showered. She lives in Oakland, and I know that's true because I've been to her house. Jan spoke at our second event along with the talk Bye Babes in the Woods, also a great title. Listen, hi Jan, thank you for being here, and go for it.
Hi, Richard. Thank you so much for getting us together. And thank you, Paul and Yusuf, for making Beast Crawl happen. And thanks to all of you for coming. I especially am excited that Bruce Isaacson, who published all those books, is here, and many old friends. So I'm going to start with The New Age. Fishermen land sharksicles off Cape Cod. Frozen iguanas like blighted oranges drop from Florida trees. Down under, heat wave boils bats' brains in flight. Flying foxes litter the ground like baseballs at batting practice. A subtle moon watches. Bayous dry up. Forests conflagrate, floods flash, mud slides from mountains to ocean. A brown bear frozen mid-roar paws at nothing, dead on the beach, washed there from the national forest with twisted cars and splintered trees. The freeway is a river of muck over pieces of people. Gas fires light the night from broken pipes. Boil the tap water, hoard spices and oil, grow your own food. The age of cities is coming to its end. And that just felt like the right one to start off with after like watching the news with teddy bears floating above basement apartments and all sorts of horrible things. That poem is from my latest book, Like Flesh Covers Bone. Bruce just brought it out on Kindle at Zeitgeist Press. You can find it at zeitgeist-press.com or Amazon, and I put some links in the chat. So this next poem is really weird for me to read because I'm in my parents' house in Santa Barbara right now. But here goes. I'm going to read quietly. Turn your sound up. Short stack. Look, I keep a poker face for all the confessionals of male relatives molesting because the truth is, I love my parents. Sure, I hated my mother for feeling up my breasts when she was high on her latest cocktail of painkillers, muscle relaxants, and tranquilizers. Reshuffle the deck, turn over the card, tell me my past. I hated her for squeezing my wrists until I had rings of bruises, telling me she hated me when I was 6. Up the ante. I hated my father for not believing me, for always saying I can't remember right and I make shit up, when in fact, to get away from my mother, I got into Harvard at 16 on the basis of my extraordinary memory. I remember stuff from the age of 20 months. I was always the only one in the family with the balls to tell the truth. Don't fold now. I hated my mother for lying about me to my father. I hated my father for believing her. Double down. They pulled the same shit on my brother when my brother finally spilled in his 40s about my mother groping his groin when he was a kid, the two of them gaslighting both of us as if her only two children would independently come up with the same lie. Raise the stakes. My therapist mother claimed my brother and I had the same fantasy of her getting handsy when she was high because my brother had an Oedipal complex and I had whatever the dyke equivalent of that was. I'm calling all the bluffs now. Look, my mother has Alzheimer's and the bad mother has gone away. All that's left is the good mother, which she could always be too. That's how they get you. I'm tipping my hand. I'm certain she doesn't remember the rotten things she did to me, and there was a lot of good stuff too. I'm cashing in my chips. The two of them are 80-something-year-old people who need me and who actually do love me, as well as two basically self-centered people can love. So excuse me if I've more or less forgiven them, because I'm telling you, as a pediatrician, I saw plenty worse parents and plenty better ones. What are you going to do? You play the hand you're dealt. The next three poems were all written over the last year at Cassandra Dallett's weekly generative workshop on 2/6. So thank you to her and the other writers there. Peggy Morrison's one of those writers. She's here today. Where did you go? I went to the shore to watch bioluminescent waves glow green before the storm. I plunged under crests and flippered into the salt, buoyed by cold kelp. I grabbed a holdfast, twisted a whisper of seagrass, plucked a clump of mussels. I dripped slowly into white noise, the whoosh of surf, the tinkle of starlight. I submerged utterly, sank to the grunge on the bottom where microscopic shells crunched under my toes. Urchins scuttled infinitesimally away from me. Starfish gripped velvet on the rocks. An octopus kaleidoscoped just out of reach, putting on a light show with its skin. I blew bubbles out the corners of my eyes. My skin respired. I desired gills. My ears heard Homer and a sandy roar. Salt water got up my nose and down my throat. Then I saw the flick of the hammerhead's tail, its crescent mouth, dead eyes. Here be monsters, and I am one of them. Queen of Sheba Market. In the turquoise painted bodega in Samana, you could get enough beans for one meal, a dollop of tomato sauce, a pinch of cilantro, a piece of an onion, everything aliquoted down to the atomic moment, the very smallest portion that could be priced. Because who had enough money for the whole can of tomato sauce, the whole onion, the whole pound of beans? You could get 2 aspirin folded into a piece of brown paper. You could get the news of just that day told to you in snatches of broken narrative, overheard, secondhand. In the hot pink hand-painted bodega in Oakland, you could get a whole can of beans already cooked and seasoned. You could get a frozen pizza and a Dos Equis or a Modelo Negro and a cold Pepsi or a dozen different brands of filtered cigarettes. You could get pulled out of the bodeguita by a man who took the stroller from you with the kid in it and wheeled it calmly to the child's grandfather, who took the baby inside the apartment building, while the man returned just as calmly and began hitting you methodically in a businesslike way until you were dripping in tears and blood, and you would both have disappeared before the police called by the white woman arrived. There are bright bodegas everywhere. There are pale-skinned women calling the police, but too afraid to get out of their cars, everywhere. In a previous life, I was a pediatrician, and I'm going to finish with this one called Winter Clinic. If you haven't seen 40 kids in 4 hours on a clinic night in winter, peered in 80 ears, listened to 40 rapid hearts, felt 40 hot foreheads, if you haven't prescribed antibiotics, diaper rash cream, humidifiers, and inhalers, and given the nod to warm yerba buena tea with honey, if you haven't talked and listened in Spanish while writing notes in the chart in English, and also listened to a tiny chest or gazed through a lens into a waxy ear, the drum red hot, if you haven't looked into the ears of the 3 other kids in the family, even though only one was registered for a 5-minute appointment, If you haven't talked a mother through it while you stuck a long needle into the spine of her 5-day-old infant, shown her the spinal fluid dripping out clear, told her how reassuring that was, keeping her still with your voice while you tortured her baby. If you haven't coughed yourself through a flu season in a pediatrics department, if you haven't worked 36 hours straight while panting with pneumonia, if you haven't got chicken pox for the second time in your life at 36 years old, got pox in your throat and your vulva, on the insides of your eyelids, so when you finally came back to work, you could only drink milkshakes. If you haven't watched a 6-month-old die that you've cared for since she popped out of her mother's womb months early, if you haven't cried as you slow walked her code, looked into her parents' eyes as they said, let her go, then I don't want to hear your opinion over who should keep working through a pandemic, or who deserves a vaccine, or who is making money, or what you think doctors want, or why they do what they do. Thank you. That's it.
Oh my God. Yeah, thank you so much for kicking our asses. And, and everybody needs to unmute for a moment.
Thank you. I'm in such great company. It's really a pleasure. Thank you.
This is marvelous.
And I can't wait to hear Juba now.
Yay,
Oh, are we on network? Yeah. Thank you, Jan Steckel. And so we have one more reader hang out, all because, you know, you need your asses kicked a little more. And up next, and finally, we have Juba Kalamka, who is joining us today. Bisexual artist activist Juba Kalamka is most recognized for his more recent work with queer POC performance troops Sins Invalid and Mangoes with Chile, and as co-founder of the queer hip-hop group Deep Dick Collective. He produced the annual East Bay Pride sponsored Peace Out World Homo Hop Festival from 2002 to 2007. His essays and creative writing appear in numerous journals and anthologies, including Working Sex, Sex Workers Write About a Changing Industry, the Yale Anthology of Rap, and the award-winning Recognize, the Voices of Bisexual Men. His first solo poetry collection, Son of Byford, will be released by Nomadic Press in 2022. He lives in Oakland with his partner of 19 years, their daughter, a neurotic standard poodle, and enthusiastically territorial rescue dog. He practiced polyamory both locally and globally. And Juba spoke at our 6th hashtag we event with a talk titled Nguso Sabotage, Intersecting My Margins. Please welcome Juba Kalamka. Hi, Juba.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. All right, cool. Thanks again for inviting me to read today. And I always say that about, like, I have the good fortune of always saying it about every group of people I get to read after, but I'm saying especially today, like, damn, reading after Jan, reading that particularly that last poem, like what am I supposed to like, damn, Jan. But for real though, yeah. So, like, thanks for having me here today. I'm going to read one piece that's that's kind of long, but is within the time, and it's called I think I included it in my manuscript for the for Nomadic. It's called Not Yet Uhuru, for the children of Thomas Equiano. Thomas Equiano, better mostly known as Gustavo Valla, who was a Igbo of Igbo descent and was a slave, an abolitionist, was a slave owner, a bunch of complicated things. And this actually poem was written for a program I did called, that I participated in, called Into the Streets. And it's actually about the leather purge in the mid 80s, in the beginnings of the HIV epidemic, and the attendant racism, homophobia, biphobia, age phobia that was bandied inside and outside of queer community. Equiano acho, where am I? Where is Equiano? He's out, working on it. Don't you see him? See the kids riding my pony. Crop in hand, bitten mouth, smarty art smarting at kicked haunches while spurs jingle, jangle, jigaboo time. So good at it, they made James Evans' seniority disappear for uppity finger waves about making JJ look stupid. We continued to watch the asphalt grow after Florida dropped the punch bowl. Asphalt growing blacker and blacker and worn to gray and blacked again with that new hot press smell like my tar baby's armpits. I gotta have that funk. I gotta have power. Salt licked from wax, boot blacked, spit and sprayed and pop snapped and bird smeared with kiwi, swabbed with the shinola that I know from shite, even when I don't know where I am, Equiano. Where are you? We is waiting next door. He is the man sitting next to the man, sitting next to the man, sitting next to the man, sitting next to the motherfucking man, sitting next to man of war and man at arms and man who mastered this universe through the power of skull fucking hammer. Hammer, I am. They put me in the mix. When it's time to party with the lights out, we get it started by revolving around the one white boy holding the bulb. It's dark in this bathroom here, Equiano, but I can still see because my Jack Johnson is shiny and sweaty, reflective. And yo, we are paperweight champs, pillars of cold. He be 250 pounds of clay, unforgivably black, but still necessary. This bridge called my dick, call all of mine, like you call me George, Emmett, Boy, Schwerner, Cheney, Goodman, Bayard, Strayhorn, Marlon, Jimmy, Ernest Everett, Gary Fisher. Call me Detroit Red, the junkie maker, punking hypes, kneeling for Swizzer before I Hajj to your Mecca. Slow down, bro, no hurry, take it easy. How long? Not long. The BART will get us from Africa to fairyland in no time flat. Here nor there's what I is, a nice idea complicated in execution, though simple to execute. Can't step out of skin or history, emancipated into conscriptions, this new South of my own choice. No chains to keep us together. We are each other's backdrop, each other's suspension of disbelief. The world is very different now. Eyes free at last to nigger play with Race Bannon and Dr. Quest. Inhibition and prohibition melting away in clouds of poppers and shit stank that morph into cartoon question marks over my head, such as, since they took the doors off the stalls in the bath, why do I still need 3 IDs to get into the club? Because it's midnight, son, at the Midnight Sun. Ask them at the catacombs, because you were there, whether you know it or not. Seen you sprinkled in a few snapshots, pepper flecking a bowl of hot grits here and again, though they would have preferred more refined sugar. Imagining many of you squeezing Twix, your mama them blonde Jesus, hallelujah gobble, and Falcon Man action kins, alternating fetishizations and loathing. But Essex taught me to think when I fuck, and I'd be better off if I didn't pretend that I didn't want it when I know I wanted it. No, I needed Equiano. So the remaining unburnt brain cells pitch shift from top to bottom, to the top to the bottom, to my master / daddy in 83 North Cali, to my master / daddy 5 generations ago in Tullatoba, Mississippi. You see, I have pictures of both of them. You feel good, and pat yourself on the back of your $875 vest because there's consent here, and the world is very different now. No need to imagine or speculate as to whether Sally Hemings' pussy was popping or if she was getting off in her scenes. You've convinced yourself that was so, or what safe words Tom Sawyer and Jim might have agreed upon. Just swapping out that coffee can of bacon drippings for fresh Crisco is enough. Allow me to slather this creaminess up my arm, imbuing myself with meaning, relevance, preparing to prepare to be able to punish it through punishing you. Though given the visual, one is more likely to imagine it as Kunta Kinte amputated to the elbow, ass eating and sucking his otherness. Dude, I heard the glove that he's wearing, the one that black track guy raised his fist, wore at the medal ceremony in the '68 Olympics in Mexico City. It's so hot. Affirmative action agendaed quota of hot space and time and time and space, left for a last poet to metaphorize your insides, understanding that no matter what we say to each other, the fact that we are both here makes you not one of them. And that will be apparent when the lights come up, when we are forced into the street and upstanding wine, cheese, and crudité segments of what we thought was our community, or your community at least, shows us every brother ain't a brother, though I already knew that. So what you thought was your community will blame us, me and you. Blame both the darkness and the light, will blame everything in between, will blame the buttons on your cap, will blame your motorcycle shades, will blame the rag in your pocket, will blame the dried piss streaks on your chaps, will blame Sylvester and Giorgio Moroder and Kraftwerk and Fantasy Records and every arrogant Italian disco producer who ever lived for the pants and boots baseline that caped the time. They will blame us both for the tongue cancer and the CMV, and will blame us for the crushed grape on my cousin's temple, will blame us for your sister's neuropathy, will carry on and on and on, and trite and all too ironic public humiliation scenes, begging and penitent. And yes, sir, may I have another? And Uncle Tomming for straight people. Yes, sir, may I have another? For the nasty, nasty behavior of their freaky dinge loving and or snow queen and cousins, both of whom they like to fuck in secret. Goosey, goosey, guinea, guinea, kinfolk pussy, good as any. Apologizing for the least of us, for the unsavory, shameless, bohemian elements of our kind. The secret meetings around the slings in St. Andrew's Cross with the selfish addicts and the lone representative from Haiti who have unleashed this plague upon your progeny that would certainly have been held at bay had they not used so many dirty words and done it so violently and loudly, and had done it in their bedrooms and had gone away quietly and in all their complications and contradictions and sickness inside of sickness, and made it simple for you and allowed you to continue to blame them. But that happens sometimes, you know, when people don't pay close enough attention, because it's always pretend, just plain and edgy artistic expression when Mapplethorpe kept chopping your head out of the frame, Equiano. Or maybe he was just remembering, paying attention to something he was supposed to, compelled to. But even if he was just benighted as fuck, it sure as hell didn't take a coffee table book full of gelatin plates to get the point across. Tell me where you ended up in this middle after the middle passage. Just passing through once was enough to let me know I am in the same place that I've been for so long stuck between a rock and my hard on. Man on film jerking off across the world from North Lawndale to Finland, and wondering how long we can deal with being the rain on their parades and hoping that neither of them see me, because I know that they can't actually stand to see me. Thank you, and thank you all very much.
And that, my friends, is the tsunami known as Juba Kalamka. Can we unmute and give them some love? As if. Oh,
thank you.
Hey.
Thank you
Nice
so
one,
much.
Juba.
Bravo, bravo, bravo.
Yeah. So that actually, yeah.
Oh, my head's exploding.
I know. Maybe we should. We've actually finished 5 minutes before the hour, and we might need those 5 minutes to put our heads back together. But so I want to thank everyone so much for tuning in. It's so weird to say the hashtag we, and we did shut down for the pandemic, partially because it felt odd for some of our presenters to speak. They give intimate talks, a lot of them, and you know, it felt odd to try to do that on the internet. Maybe it would feel less odd now, but so I've just put up, if you're interested in following hashtag we, I just put up links to find us on Facebook, and I also keep a web page with all the information on it. And don't forget, you can save the chat at the end of the reading and keep everybody's links on hand in your computerized thing. And up next, speaking, how do you say that, Paul? I say it wrong every time.
I have elementary school kids, 5th graders, who say axolotl all the time.
Yeah,
but
it's not.
But some people say alote, some people say alot. So
Right.
there are variations of all kinds, but alot I think is maybe the most correct.
And then we'll have a lot of writing, speaking Espanol as well.
And also the musical guest coming up before that is Madam Chang. who,
Yeah.
if you saw Madam Chang on Friday night, you know that you want to see this coming up on that, because Madam Chang blew the doors off the joint.
So she was gonna do something solo, but it turns out the band is ready.
Oh my God, that's
They're in the
amazing.
studio, and she's like, "Write me now."
Listen, so you have to, for those who don't know, you have to actually join another Zoom meeting to watch Madam Chang, and then speaking Austrano, and you know, but it's so,
I'm just posting it over
so
in the
amazing.
chat. Yeah,
they're so amazing, and they're beaming in from Mexico City, and the music, it blew everyone away. So I so recommend clicking on that, even if you just have a few minutes, just to be transported. And I'm going to shut up now because it's your gig.
And then Josiah Luis Alderete is going to come in with his line, of course, and we'll get us going. So thank you so much. We'll be uploading the show to YouTube later in the week. We thank you, so your readers. You guys, the top of the line, man, top shelf. You guys have electrified our day 3 in ways I was not. I've been stimulated and titillated in ways I was not expecting today. So
save the chat now for the links.
I remember. Yes, I know how that goes. Thank you.
I keep doing it.
We got the links in the Facebook post as well. So they're doubled and tripled. So it's in a bunch of
they're everywhere.
places.
The links are everywhere.
I want them everywhere.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, folks.
Thanks everybody for reading.
And we'll see you in a minute.
You guys are so marvelous.